Mike, with step 2, the develop project timeline, can you speak to what that what is it typically? I'm sure
that can be
varies.
everything it does. You knew that was going to be my answer. You know, I get calls from entrepreneurs, particularly if it's their first facility, they haven't done it before, and they're approaching real estate, unfortunately, as a commodity, saying, I need space next month. Well, no you don't. Hang on. Here's, you know, if you need your own commercial space or sublease, that's one thing I do want to address is a lot of times people view, you know, just subleasing. There's no just anything in this business, but subleasing as sort of a quicker timeline, right? The space is already built out, you know, the furniture may be there, maybe wired, maybe the wiring works, maybe it doesn't. You know, maybe the IT is separated, maybe it's not, but it appears people envision themselves in the space quicker because they're just subleasing from someone else. Problem is you're dealing with not only the negotiation with the sub-landlord, you should also be evaluating them to make sure that they're viable. The sub-landlord, which is in effect, you know, the person you're leasing from, if they default, you have no sublease anymore. So that's part of the process in addition to evaluating the landlord and the lease that you're going to be bound by. And what draws out the timeline even further is that the landlord has to approve of the sublease, which depending on what kind of landlord you're dealing with could extend the process several months. I would say, you know, maybe if you're talking about someone that's growing out of an incubator and, you know, is rather flexible about what they need and there's no overriding business objectives that's going to alter the process in some way, you know, after going through all this, I would say the soonest is probably 3 months to do everything right. I mean, it'll take, you know, Verizon at least a month just to, you know, get your T1 activated. You know, a lot of people don't think about that. I mean, it's so important. And that's coming from an incubator or coming from, you know, your garage or something like that. You know, typically I would say, you know, 9 to 12 months is kind of typical when the market's, you know, sort of flat, it's sort of at equilibrium, which is certainly not right now. It's a silently tenants market. In most cases, it can depend, but in most cases it is. You want to give yourself time for a deal to die, basically. You want to give yourself time to go through the evaluation and then the lease negotiation, and the landlord pulls the plug on you because he says, well, the big tenant on the second floor wants this space, so sorry, you're out of it. You need time for that. So you want to give yourself, you know, I would say 9 months to a year just for a typical renewal or a relocation, because that can happen on a renewal too. You know, it depends on, you know, how strong the renewal rights are, but you still want to build leverage for a renewal. If the landlord views you as the captive tenant because you just call up the landlord and say, hey, I want to renew my lease, well, you're going to leave a lot of risk and money on the table doing that. Plus, if you go through this process, you may find that there may be options that exist that are better than what you currently have that can save you more money, mitigate more risk. But the path of least resistance a lot of times, particularly in this market, is to just renew. And you know, sometimes you leave money on the table. But certainly 9 to 12 months. But I'm working with, you know, clients that are, you know, 24 to 36 months away from lease expiration that aren't really changing in size. Maybe their facility could be a little bit better, but because of the market and landlords' desperate need for cash flow, long-term credit cash flow to extend the life of their debt service on their buildings and to keep their buildings, they may renegotiate with you, particularly if they don't view you as a captive tenant. And other landlords, there are landlords out there that will, you know, provide, again, it depends, but could potentially provide several months or years of free rent or buy out your existing lease liability, again, for the same reason, just so they can hang on to their building. And it depends. It depends on, you know, the extent of your requirement, how much of a proportion of the building you'll need, as well as how strong you are as a tenant, you know, financially, and what type of commitment you can make. It depends on a whole host of factors. Every landlord's different, every building's different. But it's something that should be explored. What I advise clients to do is, I don't care where you are, from a lease expiration or a real estate decision of some kind, I want to come in, look at your lease, evaluate that, and go through this process with you. And what may happen is we may stop the process right here. we may decide that after we've done this analysis that, you know what, you're fine, we need to wait a year. And I've told a lot of clients that in the past year because they hear everything going on. Well, maybe I can do something. We go through the process and then we halt it because there's not really a better opportunity versus what they have currently. But at least that's a strategic decision to do nothing. It's a well-informed decision to do nothing as opposed to doing nothing because it's easier. And a whole lot of people are doing nothing because it's easier, because they see the lease expiration, you know, somewhere over here, and I don't know what my business is going to be. Well, of course you don't, but there still may be a way to improve your facility, even if you'll know exactly, or your cost, or reduce your liability, even if you don't know exactly, you know, where your business is going to be.